Hello everyone, my name's Matt Johnston and welcome to an Interesting Times special, as we do seem to be living in rather interesting times. Last Monday in Southport, the most horrifying murder took place of 3 young girls who had gone to a Taylor Swift dance class workshop. The door of the building had been left open due to the heat, but even in people's darkest nightmares, never could they have envisaged what occurred. As news started to come out, as the community in Southport was still attempting to deal with the carnage and horror of that afternoon, details were sketchy, which allowed some to make their own judgment that this was an illegal immigrant Muslim called Ali al-Shakatari. This seems to have been started or at least fueled by far-right platforms on Twitter and Facebook, and even mad as a bat lady, Katie Hopkins.
Breaking news here in batshit bonkers Britain, where there's been a stabbing of our children at a dance class. Number 2, divert attention away, say that he was from Cardiff. His name is Ali al-Kati. Yeah, a very Welsh sounding name.
Also, that's not the murderer's name. Also, not everyone in Wales is called Joan. Yes, I did say not everyone. But this didn't stop people, let's be honest, people who should know better, from claiming a conspiracy.
I have to say there are one or two questions. Was this guy being monitored by the security services? Some reports say he was, others less sure. The police say it's a non-terror incident, just as they said the stabbing of an Army Lieutenant Colonel in uniform on the streets of Kent the other day was a non-terror incident. I just wonder whether the truth is being withheld from us. I don't know.
No, you don't. Maybe you should have started with that and asked for calm until we know the full facts.
I think the police have got to stop being so mealy-mouthed. There are a lot of people who don't actually believe the police are telling the truth about incidents like this. So they just need to think a bit more carefully about their language. When they said this guy originated in, did it say Cardiff or Swansea? I can't remember. Cardiff. When they said this guy originated in Cardiff, I took that as meaning he was born in Cardiff, but it's perfectly clear an awful lot of people didn't.
What are you talking about? If someone originates from an area, that's where they're from. They're not Batman villains. I'm originally from Devon, but if I say that I'm originally from Devon, but before then I lived in Bristol, I think you would have questions. I imagine questions like, "You all right, my lover?"
Was this man an asylum seeker, an immigrant who'd come across on a boat? Was he a Muslim? They were the two questions that were being debated.
They were.
And the police came out and said he was born in Cardiff 17 years ago. Great, that deals with number one. Why not say he was born in Cardiff and he's a Christian?
Or whatever
or he
may
has
be.
no religion.
Need to be clear where his parents came from Rwanda. They said it eventually, but they come up with this mealy-mouthed stuff.
I'm guessing the reason they don't mention that is because it's not relevant. I mean, to anyone not racist, that is. The parents are from Rwanda, which we know is a safe place because the Tories told us, and indeed the courts, that it is. So it must be, right? Actually, that's slightly unfair. Whilst knowing where the parents are from isn't relevant, as the individual in the eyes of the law is still a child, getting information about the parents would be relevant. But there's another problem with the early release of information.
I think one has to be careful about being baited into a situation where you're exacerbating the problem. And the example I want to use is that the speculation about the ethnic origins of the attacker was one thing. And in order to put some of the misinformation at bay, or the disinformation, for example, that his name was Ali al-Shakati, who doesn't exist, was the claim, is to say that, he comes from parents who were originally from Rwanda. And then, for example, in the BBC, they said, it's been reported that his parents from Rwanda. Is that information necessary? Ultimately, it probably would not be. But because people have made such a kind of commotion about the origins, the BBC almost has to correct the record by saying, well, he's not a Muslim and he's XYZ. He was born in Cardiff from these parents to give that information. But by doing that, you're also playing.
So we're being led into it. We're basically being pulled into the game.
Yes, effectively, you're giving into mob rule. And if after every stabbing, you're turning around and saying, not an illegal immigrant and not a Muslim, then you're feeding into the fear of every stabbing coming as a result of illegal immigrants and Muslims, which got us into this very position. And the far-right racists know this. which is why they're attempting to conflate two separate stabbings committed by two separate people a week and 240 miles apart.
Certain elected MPs and others, agitators, that have been fueling this for a number of weeks, more than that, actually. I've seen it slowly having the drip, drip, drip effect.
All right, let's hear from one of those drips.
Good evening. Remember the good old days when the slogan "Britain isn't working" just related to unemployment? It's now 2024 and it seems a wider breakdown in our society is playing out before our eyes. We've had those weekly so-called peace marches that feature calls for the wiping out of Israel and intifada, which means suicide bombers on buses, trains and in shopping centres.
Making that the most ironic sign ever written. Mark Donut is certainly against two-tier policing, but not adverse to two-tier journalism. See how he avoids the R word when describing the riots happening across the country.
A huge protest has broken out in Hartlepool as demonstrators throw bricks at a line of riot police. Witnesses say a metal beam has been launched at officers during the unrest. Men in balaclavas are said to be hitting the police officers with huge wooden bats. Now, this is a very worrying development. Of course,
I predict a worrying development. I predict a worrying development. But wait, I don't understand. Didn't people's outrage and disgust, wasn't it because of the horrendous crimes of this individual and the police hiding information from us? Isn't that what led to the riots, disorder, protests, worrying developments? No, it's the government forcing an agenda on us.
Good chance go, didn't he, really? I don't think he's helped the police at all. I think he's been part of the major problem because what he's said is that this whole thing is all about yobs and thuggery and there's no message behind it.
It's plain to anyone who's looking that the pitiful leaders, puppeticians, cause the problems and then offer pre-prepared solutions that benefit only them.
And they want the establishment to stop applying nonsense Marxist theories to this breakdown of control.
Sorry, I meant it's the government having no power to be able to force an agenda on us.
Crowds are chanting, "Save our kids and stop the boats." I mean, it ain't going well for Labour so far.
No, it isn't, because they haven't stopped anything so far.
I mean, stop the boats.
The second that white working-class Britons have the audacity to take to the streets about something that they're passionate about, boom, out comes the "we're really tough on you, we're going to do this, we're going to do that."
See, that's why they've gone out in a balaclava and thrown bricks at riot police, because they've made the Little Mermaid black. I've had enough.
Anyone that waves a British flag, anyone who waves the George's Cross is seen as far right.
Ah, that's it. It's about not being allowed to wave the Union Jack Union flag in your own country without being called a racist. And that's bad news for this guy.
Let me now turn to the actions of a tiny, mindless minority in our society. Because in the aftermath of this attack, the community of Southport had to suffer twice. A gang of thugs got on trains and buses, went to a community that is not their own, a community grieving the most horrific tragedy, and then proceeded to throw bricks at police officers who just 24 hours earlier had been having to deal with an attack on children in their community. These people are showing our country exactly who they are. Mosques targeted because they're mosques. Flares thrown at the statue of Winston Churchill. A Nazi salute at the cenotaph. These thugs are mobile. They move from community to community. And we must have a policing response that can do the same.
Pretty much that. Well said, Sir Keir. Nice to see we've got a government prepared to call out racist thugs for being just that. Because what should have been a community in mourning has instead turned into a story on violence, unacceptable violence, happening on our streets, and politicians not doing the job they are paid to do. And this all started because of online misinformation.
Do you think Russia was helping to fuel that online? Suspicions of Russian involvement of destabilization and situation in UK, in another part of the West, it was not first time. They used social network to make this all fake news about situation. I could say this is proxy war against all democracy.
Exactly. It's in the interest of hostile states to flood social media accounts with wrong information to see our country literally burn. And our politicians and news organisations are supposed to work with what's best for the country. And if Sir Keir wants to deal with that, then he should treat those that spread hate and misinformation online the same way. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay true, stay kind. Take care.